Lucas Raines wiped his hands on his worn-out jacket as he stepped into the quiet mess hall of Vega Outpost. The station floated like a small pearl in the black ocean of space, orbiting the bright star Vega Prime. It was a place where traders, explorers, and engineers from many worlds passed through. But tonight the mess hall was nearly empty, with only a few tired faces scattered around. Lucas liked this time of the day when everything was calm. He enjoyed the peaceful hum of the station's systems and the faint buzz of distant starships docking or leaving. The smell of recycled air mixed with the faint aroma of spices from his small oven. He smiled as he opened the oven door and pulled out a tray of warm chocolate chip protein cookies. These were not just ordinary cookies. They were his special recipe made from ingredients brought from Earth. For Lucas, baking these cookies reminded him of home. He took a cookie, feeling its warmth through the thin glove on his hand. Then he moved to sit near the window, where he could see the stars flickering beyond the station walls. His workday was over, but his evening snack was just beginning. Suddenly, something small and quick caught his eye from the corner of the room. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light. Then he noticed a tiny figure sitting on one of the tables near the recycling bins. It was a girl no taller than a meter, with delicate limbs and shining skin that glimmered faintly like stardust. Lucas blinked and rubbed his eyes, thinking he must be tired. But the girl was still there, watching him with wide, curious eyes. Her face was a soft blue shade, and her hair flowed behind her like strands of silver light. She did not speak but pointed at the cookies on Lucas's tray with a hopeful look. Lucas felt a strange mixture of surprise and curiosity. He had heard stories about tiny alien species, but this was his first real encounter. He smiled gently and lifted a cookie toward her. The girl hesitated, then reached out with delicate fingers and took the cookie. She looked at it as if it were the most precious thing she had ever seen. Slowly, she took a tiny bite. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then her small body stiffened for a moment. Lucas worried she might be allergic or hurt. But then her cheeks glowed softly, turning a warm golden color. A small smile spread across her lips. Her eyes shone brighter, full of wonder. Lucas laughed quietly, relieved. The cookie had done something strange and wonderful. He guessed that her species might process food differently, and this taste had made her feel something new, something warm. The girl's body seemed to relax, and she looked up at Lucas with a new kind of excitement. She made a soft sound, almost like a song, and reached out her hand. Lucas took it carefully. It was cold but light, and as he held it, he felt a tiny spark of energy pass between them. From that moment, something changed. The tiny alien girl, who he learned was called Zila, began to visit Lucas every night. She came with no fear and no words, only her bright eyes and her desire to taste more of the human world. Lucas found himself eager to share. Every evening he would bake new treats for her to try. Sometimes it was a simple cookie. Other times he made protein bars or fruit jelly cubes. Each new taste caused a different reaction. Sometimes her skin shimmered in colors he had never seen. Once she floated a few centimeters off the floor, laughing with delight. Their friendship grew quietly but strongly. Zila brought small gifts for Lucas too. Shiny stones, bits of metal, and tiny flowers from the outpost's artificial garden. She learned simple human gestures, copying his smiles and nods. Lucas taught her the meaning of warmth not just through food, but through kindness and trust. But not everyone on the station was happy. Some of the traders whispered about the strange little alien. Others were suspicious of her presence. The Lalari species, to which Zila belonged, was known to be secretive and distant. They rarely trusted outsiders, especially humans. Lucas did not care about the rumors. To him, Zila was a friend, a small miracle that showed how different species could connect in the vastness of space. One evening, while Lucas and Zila shared cookies near the observation window, the station's alert system blinked red. A message came through from the station commander. The Lalari High Accord was approaching the station. Their ship was large and powerful, and they demanded the immediate return of one of their own. Lucas's heart sank. He realized that Zila's time on Vega Outpost might be ending soon. But the thought of sending her away, back to a place where she might be alone and frightened, filled him with determination. Zila looked at Lucas with eyes full of questions. She did not understand the danger or the fear. All she knew was that the warmth she found with him was unlike anything she had ever felt. Lucas promised silently that he would do everything he could to keep her safe. to protect the friendship that had begun with a single taste of a simple cookie. As the lights of the Lalari ship appeared on the station's radar, Lucas and Zila prepared for what was to come. But neither of them could guess that this small encounter would change the future of two species and create a new story of hope across the stars. The days passed slowly on Vega Outpost, but each one brought something new for Lucas and Zila. The tiny alien girl seemed eager to learn about everything in the human world, especially food. Every evening, Lucas prepared a new treat for her to try. He noticed how each taste made her react in different ways. Sometimes she would glow softly in blue or green shades. Sometimes she would laugh and bounce lightly on her feet. It was as if the flavors brought joy to her whole being. Lucas started keeping notes in his small datapad. He wrote down what he gave Zila to eat and how she reacted. He hoped to understand her better and maybe find a way to help her. He also wanted to share his findings with the scientists back on Earth. Maybe humans and Lalari could learn from each other. Zila, for her part, was more than just curious about food. She was curious about Lucas himself. She watched how he moved, how he smiled, how he worked. She began to copy some of his gestures, like tilting her head when confused or clapping her hands when happy. Lucas laughed and encouraged her. He showed her simple signs to say thank you and friend. Their friendship grew quietly in the shadow of the busy station. Zila would often bring small gifts to Lucas. Sometimes she picked bright stones from the outpost's gardens. Other times she found tiny pieces of old technology hidden in the recycling bays. Lucas treasured each gift. He placed them on his workbench and admired the care she showed. Despite the growing bond between them, Lucas noticed the station was not entirely welcoming to Zila. Some of the traders and crew whispered about the strange little alien. They questioned why she was allowed to stay and what she wanted from humans. The Lalari were known as a secretive people, and many were uncomfortable with one of their own, so close to humans. One afternoon, Lucas decided to learn more about the Lalari. He searched through old station records and libraries, reading what he could find. The Lalari were nomads of the stars, traveling between galaxies on ships that looked like living creatures. They were peaceful but cautious. They avoided contact with other species, fearing their unique culture would be lost. Lucas found a brief mention of a famous Lalari explorer called the Pathseeker. This explorer had ventured near Earth decades ago but never returned. Many believed the Pathseeker and her crew were lost forever. Lucas wondered if Zila was connected to this explorer somehow. It seemed important. That evening, Lucas asked Zila quietly, hoping she could understand. He pointed to the stars and then to a small picture of the Lalari ship he found in a book. Zila's eyes grew wide and she nodded slowly. She pointed to herself and then to a picture of a woman wearing a silver robe, marked as the Pathseeker. Lucas smiled gently. Somehow Zila was the daughter of the missing explorer. That meant she was not just a curious traveler. She carried her people's history in her heart. Lucas realized then why Zila had come to Vega Outpost. She was searching for answers. She wanted to understand what had happened to her mother, and why humans were part of this story. More than that, she wanted to experience something her people never had, a taste of Earth and its warmth. That night, Lucas made a special batch of cookies. These were his best recipe, rich and sweet. When Zila took a bite, her whole body glowed with a bright golden light. She laughed and floated a few centimeters off the ground. Her eyes sparkled like stars. Lucas laughed too, happy to see her joy. In that moment, he knew that something simple, food, could connect them across the vast emptiness of space. It was a small miracle, but it was real. However, not all was calm on the station. The news about Zila had reached the Lalari High Accord, the leaders of her people. They were sending a ship to Vega Outpost to bring her home. The Lalari did not trust humans, and they believed Zila's presence here was dangerous. Lucas heard the warnings from Station Command. They told him the Lalari ship would arrive soon. They said it was best to cooperate and prepare to hand Zila over. But Lucas refused. He could not let her go without understanding, without hope. He saw the fear in Zila's eyes when she learned about the approaching ship. She did not want to leave. She wanted to stay and learn, to taste more of the human world. She wanted to find the warmth that she had felt with Lucas. Lucas promised her he would find a way to protect her. He was determined to show the Lalari that humans could be friends, that sometimes The smallest things, a cookie, a smile, a helping hand, could change everything. The next day, Lucas invited some of the station's leaders and scientists to meet Zila. He showed them his notes and videos of her reactions to human food. He explained how she was different, how she needed kindness, not fear. Some of the people listened and smiled. Others were still unsure. But Lucas did not give up. He invited everyone to share their own foods with Zila, to see for themselves the magic of a simple taste. Slowly, the station began to change. The traders brought fruits and spices from distant planets. The engineers offered sweets from their home worlds. Even the doctors joined in, curious about how these tastes affected Zila's health. Zila became a small star on the outpost, a symbol of hope. Her glowing skin and joyful laughter brought warmth to the cold metal halls. She taught humans to look beyond fear and see the beauty in difference. One evening, as the stars shone bright outside the window, Lucas and Zila sat together. He offered her a new kind of treat, soft fruit from a distant planet. She took a bite, her body lighting up in soft purple and blue shades. She reached out and took Lucas's hand. No words were needed. In that moment, across species and space, they shared a deep friendship built on trust, curiosity, and the simple joy of a taste. But the shadow of the Lalari ship still loomed near. The High Accord would arrive soon. Lucas knew that their journey was only beginning. They would face challenges, doubts, and fears. Yet with each cookie, each smile, each glowing moment, they built a bridge between two worlds. A bridge made of warmth, hope, and the endless possibility that even the tiniest alien girl could find a home among the stars. Lucas sat at his small desk in his quarters on Vega Outpost, staring at the holographic image of the Lalari ship that had appeared on the station's radar. It was beautiful and strange, like a living star floating in the blackness of space. The ship's surface shimmered and changed colors unlike anything Lucas had ever seen before. He felt a mixture of awe and worry. Zila sat quietly nearby, watching Lucas with her bright eyes. She did not speak much, but her presence was comforting. Lucas reached out and gently touched her small hand. She smiled softly, but Lucas knew she was scared. The news from Station Command was clear. The Lalari High Accord would arrive soon, and they demanded Zila's return. The leaders of her people did not trust humans. They believed Zila should be with them, away from the dangers of the human world. Lucas understood their fear, but he could not agree. He wanted to protect Zila. He wanted to help her find the answers she sought. And he wanted to show her people that humans were not enemies, but friends. That night, Lucas searched deeper into the station's archives. He looked for any information about the Lalari Pathseeker, the famous explorer who had vanished near Earth many years ago. Zila had pointed to her in a picture, and Lucas felt that understanding her mother's story could help him understand Zila better. After hours of searching, Lucas found an old report hidden in the station's dusty database. It told the story of the Pathseeker's last mission. She had traveled to the edge of known space near Earth to study human culture and share knowledge. But something had gone wrong. The ship had disappeared without a trace. The report said that the Pathseeker had sent a final message before vanishing. In her message, she spoke of a human who had shown kindness and warmth. She mentioned sharing food, laughter, and friendship. The message was full of hope, but it ended suddenly. Lucas felt a shiver. Could that human be connected to him? Was it possible that his simple act of sharing cookies was part of a larger story? He looked at Zila, who was sleeping peacefully. She carried a legacy of bravery and love that stretched across time and space. The next morning, Lucas decided to tell Zila what he had found. He sat beside her and showed her the images and messages. Her eyes grew wide and she listened carefully. For the first time, she spoke a few words in her own language. They sounded soft and musical. Lucas did not understand the words, but he felt their meaning. Zila was telling him about hope, about her mother's dream, and about the warmth she had always wished to feel again. As days passed, Lucas noticed something new. Zila's reactions to human food became stronger. Her body glowed brighter and she seemed more alive. One evening she even floated higher than before, laughing with joy. Lucas smiled and encouraged her. He knew that food was more than nourishment for Zila. It was a connection to her past, a bridge to her future. But the arrival of the Lalari ship was drawing near. The station prepared for the meeting with caution. Some humans were curious, others were nervous. They did not know how the Lalari would react to Zila's time spent among humans. When the Lalari delegation arrived, their leader, a tall figure with shimmering silver robes, stepped onto the station. The atmosphere grew tense. The leader's eyes were sharp and serious. He spoke in a clear voice, demanding Zila's return. Lucas stepped forward. He did not want conflict. He spoke calmly, explaining Zila's journey and the friendship they had built. He shared the story of the Pathseeker and the human who had shown kindness. He showed the glowing reaction Zila had to human food. The Lalari leader listened carefully. After a long pause, he spoke again. He said that Zila was important to their people, and that her safety was their priority. But he also admitted that he was curious about the warmth Lucas had shown. Lucas offered a simple promise. He said he would continue to care for Zila and help her learn. He invited the Lalari delegation to share food and stories to understand one another better. To everyone's surprise, the leader agreed. He said that perhaps it was time for the Lalari to open their hearts to others. The past had been full of fear and silence, but the future could be brighter. The delegation stayed on the station longer than expected. They shared their own foods, some strange and beautiful. Zila tried them with excitement, glowing in new colors. The humans listened to the Lalari stories, learning about their travels and dreams. Lucas watched with hope. He saw a new beginning, a chance for two very different worlds to come together. One night, as the stars shone outside the window, Zila sat with Lucas and the Lalari leader. They shared a simple meal, tasting food from Earth and from Lalari worlds. The warmth of friendship filled the room. Zila looked at Lucas and smiled. She said a few words in her language, then pointed to the stars. Lucas understood. She was ready to find her place between two worlds. The Lalari leader nodded and promised to support her journey. He thanked Lucas for his kindness and bravery. As the delegation prepared to leave, Zila hugged Lucas tightly. She whispered a word that meant thank you in her language. Lucas felt a deep joy. He had helped a tiny alien girl find hope, and in doing so he had changed the story of the stars. The echoes of the past were strong, but the future was brighter. Together, Lucas and Zila had begun a new chapter, a story of warmth, trust, and the endless power of a simple taste. The arrival of the Lalari High Accords delegation had changed Vega Outpost in many ways. The station buzzed with cautious excitement and nervous whispers. Traders, engineers, and scientists all wondered what the future would bring. Lucas felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He knew the coming days would be difficult, but he was ready to stand for Zila and for the bond they had built. The Lalari leader, known as Marel, had surprised everyone by agreeing to a cultural exchange. It was the first time in many generations that the Lalari had opened themselves to other species like this. Marel's decision showed a glimmer of hope, but also brought new challenges. One afternoon, as Lucas worked on his data pad, an emergency message arrived from Station Command. The Lalari High Accord was preparing to hold a formal meeting with the leaders of Vega Outpost. They wanted to discuss the future of Zila and the growing relationship between humans and Lalari. Lucas was invited to attend. It was clear that the outcome of this meeting would shape not only Zila's fate, but the future of many others. On the day of the meeting, the station's conference room was filled with representatives from different species. Morel sat at the head of the table, his silver robes glowing softly under the lights. Lucas took his seat nearby, feeling both nervous and determined. Morel spoke first. His voice was calm but firm. He said that the Lalari had watched Zila's time with humans closely. They were surprised by the warmth and kindness she had found. He admitted that his people had been wrong to fear others so much, but the past had left scars that would take time to heal. Lucas listened carefully. When it was his turn, he stood and spoke clearly. He told the story of Zila's journey, from her first taste of a cookie to the laughter and light she now carried. He explained how food was more than nutrition for her. It was a connection to memories, emotions, and hope. He shared how humans, despite their faults, had the power to build bridges. Sometimes that bridge started with something as simple as sharing a meal. Morel nodded thoughtfully. He asked questions about human culture, about how they cared for one another, and about what it meant to be warm inside, even in the coldness of space. Lucas answered honestly. He spoke of family, friendship, and the small acts of kindness that made life meaningful. The room grew quiet as everyone absorbed the conversation. Then, Morel made a surprising proposal. He suggested creating a joint program where humans and Lalari would exchange food, stories, and knowledge. This program would be a symbol of trust and cooperation. The proposal was met with a mixture of excitement and caution. Some station leaders welcomed the idea. Others worried about risks and misunderstandings. But Lucas saw hope in their eyes. Over the next days, preparations began for the cultural exchange program. Lucas was chosen to help organize the first event, a gathering where representatives from many worlds would bring foods from their home planets to share. Zila was the guest of honor. She practiced smiling and nodding as she prepared to greet visitors. Her body glowed softly, a sign of her excitement. The day of the event arrived. The station's largest hall was decorated with banners and lights. Tables were filled with foods of all shapes, colors, and smells. The air was alive with chatter and laughter. Zila floated from table to table, tasting new dishes and sharing stories in her musical language. Humans and Lalari watched with wonder as she glowed brighter with each bite. Lucas stood nearby, proud and happy. He saw the walls of fear breaking down. He saw the beginning of a new friendship between species. As the evening went on, Marl approached Lucas. He thanked him for his courage and kindness. He said that Zila's story had touched his people deeply. The Lalari were ready to learn and grow. Lucas smiled and nodded. He knew there would still be challenges, but this was a start. Later that night, Lucas and Zila sat together near the observation window. The stars shone brightly outside. Zila took Lucas's hand and whispered words in her language. Lucas did not understand every word, but he felt the meaning, a promise of friendship and trust. Suddenly, an alert sounded from the station. A message was coming through from Earth. The Council of Planets had heard about the cultural exchange program. They were sending a team of diplomats and scientists to Vega Outpost to learn more. Lucas knew this was a chance to show the universe what humanity could do, not just as explorers or warriors, but as friends and partners. The coming days would be busy and full of hope. Zila's journey had become the journey of many. Together they would face the future with warmth and courage. Lucas looked at Zila and smiled. The tiny alien girl who once only wanted a taste had sparked something much bigger, a movement that could change the stars. The arrival of the Council of Planets team marked a new chapter for Vega Outpost and its tiny visitor, Zila. The station was buzzing with anticipation and hope. Scientists, diplomats, and explorers from many worlds gathered to witness the cultural exchange program that Lucas and Marl had started. Lucas felt proud, but also nervous. He knew that this moment carried great importance. It was more than just a meeting. It was a chance for many species to come together, to understand one another, and to build a future of peace. Zila, glowing softly as always, floated near Lucas. She was calm but excited. Her journey had brought her from the quiet loneliness of space to a place full of light and warmth. The council team arrived in sleek ships, their uniforms shining under the station's bright lights. They were greeted by Morel and the leaders of Vega Outpost. Lucas stood by, ready to explain the meaning behind the gathering. The first event was a grand meal in the station's largest hall. Tables groaned under the weight of foods from many planets, spiced breads, sweet fruits, colorful vegetables, and treats like the cookies Lucas had first shared with Zila. As the guests tasted the foods, they shared stories of their homes and cultures. The hall was filled with laughter and music, creating a feeling of friendship that stretched across the stars. Zila, glowing brighter than ever, floated among the guests. Her reactions to the new taste were joyful, and her light seemed to brighten the room. She was no longer just a tiny alien girl who wanted a taste. She was a symbol of hope and connection. Lucas spoke to the council team about what he had learned from Zila and the Lalari. He shared the importance of kindness and openness. He told them that sometimes the smallest gestures could create the strongest bonds. The council members listened carefully. They asked questions and promised to support the cultural exchange program. They spoke of a future where many species could live and work together in peace. Over the next weeks, the program grew. Scientists worked together to study the effects of different foods on various species. Artists shared their cultures through music, dance, and stories. Diplomats talked about new agreements and partnerships. Zila became a beloved figure on the station. She helped teach others about the Lalari, their history, and their dreams. She also learned more about humans, their hopes, and their struggles. One evening, Lucas and Zila stood together by the observation window watching the stars. Zila's glow pulsed gently, reflecting the peace she felt. She spoke softly in her language, telling Lucas about her mother's dreams and how they had now become her own. Lucas smiled and took her hand. He told her that no matter where she came from, she was part of something bigger now, a family of stars that welcomed her warmly. Suddenly, a message arrived from the Lalari homeworld. Morel had sent a formal invitation for Lucas and Zila to visit their capital. It was an honor and a chance to strengthen the new bonds. Lucas looked at Zila. She nodded with excitement. Together, they prepared for the journey, ready to bring the story of friendship and warmth to more worlds. As the Lalari ship lifted off from Vega Outpost, Lucas and Zila looked back one last time. The station, once a quiet outpost, had become a beacon of hope. Their journey had started with a simple cookie and a tiny taste. Now it was a movement that could change the galaxy. Lucas knew that challenges would still come. There would be fears to face and barriers to break. But with each step, with every smile and shared meal, they were creating a new dawn among the stars. And in that new dawn, the tiny alien girl who once only wanted a taste found a home, not just on one planet or station, but in the hearts of many. The stars outside the window shone brighter than ever. They told stories of friendship, courage, and the endless warmth that could be found when worlds came together. Lucas held Zila's hand tightly. Together they stepped into the future, a future full of light, hope, and the promise of many more tastes to share.